All right, so today I'm going to go ahead and work through your practice final exam. So we'll go through the 25 questions for your final exam. And remember, your final is going to be on December 14th at your normal class time between 8 and 11. So let's go ahead and get started with our practice final. The first question is simply using interval notations. The first two questions involve interval notation. So let's go ahead and look at these real quick here. I know we've talked about these before. Let's go ahead and work them out again. Remember, on interval notation, greater than or equal to, less than or equal to, those get parentheses, or those get square bracket. Strictly less than, strictly greater than, parentheses, positive or negative infinity, they also get parentheses. So our first question is 5 is in between 2t plus 1 is less than or equal to 17. So we're going to go ahead and work this out, and we're going to graph it, and then write our solution set in interval notation. So we'll move our 1 over, first off, and that leaves me with, now, a 4. We have a 2t in the middle, and the other side is a 16. We'll divide by our 2 everywhere, and that's going to then reduce down to be 2 is less than t is less than or equal to 8. And we now, again, need to go ahead and graph this on our number line, and then we'll write our answer in interval notation. So on the number line, here we are at 2, and we've got 8 over here. The 2 is going to get parentheses, and the 8 gets square brackets. And so your answer is in between the 2, so it would be 2, 8 with square brackets there. Next question is similar. It is another interval notation question, and we're going to have to distribute through combine like terms and get that x by itself on the left hand side, and then we'll graph it by which way the interval points, but the inequality points. So we have a minus 9x plus 4 times x minus 8 is greater than or equal to 2x minus parentheses 1 plus 3x minus 51. So we'll distribute the 4 through, and we'll distribute the negative through. And that's going to leave me now with a minus 9x plus 4x minus 32, it looks like. And that is less than or equal to 2x minus 1 minus 3x minus 51. Combine like terms together, and we have a minus 5x minus 32 is less than or equal to, on the right-hand side, we put the x's together, and it looks like it's a minus x minus 52. So we'll add our x over and add our 32 to the right-hand side. Right. Now, you should be able to do multiple steps at once like I did here. We'll go ahead and combine those together. So we have a minus 5x and a single x. That makes it a minus 4x. And then on the right-hand side, the 32's of course cancel, the x's cancel. And we've got a negative 52. And we're going to add to that a positive 32. Put those together. That leaves you with a negative 20. Now, remember, in inequalities, whenever we divide or multiply by a negative number, that is going to flip our inequality symbol, the way that it points. So let's go ahead and do that. Now we switch our inequality symbol. And so it's going to point to the left instead of to the right. Negative over negative makes that a positive 5. Here's our number line. We look at the way it points. Right? It points to the left. So we'll put our 5 here. We're going to go ahead and use square brackets. It's pointing now to the left. So we'll go this direction. And that goes out to negative infinity. And then in interval notation, we have negative infinity from left to right to 5. And there is your answer in interval notation. So the key takeaway is to remember, whenever you divide or multiply by a negative number, you will flip your inequality symbol. The next question, we're going to be clearing out a fraction. So the next question we'll be looking at, we're going to be clearing out a fraction here. So what we've got on question 3 is we've got minus 9/8 equals a negative 48. So I'm going to clear out my fractions by multiplying everything by a 9. You could use the reciprocal as well, but I'm just going to multiply it by that 9. That's going to flip our signs around, or not signs, but that's going to remove our denominators here. And that leaves you with a minus 8x equals, we've got 9 times a negative 48. That's a minus 432. We divide by our negative 8. And negative over negative makes that now a positive. And so the final solution would be positive 54 there. Next question, question 4, is again very similar. It's another linear equation that we've got to solve. So let's look at question 4. We've got a minus 4x minus 9 equals a minus 3x minus 4. Now we should be able to do several operations at once. So I'm going to add the 3x and add the 9 over as well. That gives me then now minus 4x plus 3x. That leaves me with a negative x. The 9's can cancel. The 3x's can cancel. And that leaves me with a positive 5. But again, we do not want a negative x value. So how do we fix that? We divide by our negative 1. And that now leaves you with x equaling negative 5. So we have solved that linear equation. Question 5 talks about the domain and the range and what makes something a function. So how do we know if something's a function? Ordered pairs are functions, or form a function, I should say, if all x values are different. The domain is going to be the values of x, and the range is going to be the values of y. So ordered pairs are a function if all the x values are different, and the domain is the values of x, range is the values of y. So we have our ordered pairs here. We've got minus 2, 5, 3, 5, and 3, 4. And we want to know if this is a function, yes or no. And we're also going to get the domain and the range. Now, this is not going to be a function. And the reason it's not a function is when I look at these 3's. we've got duplicated x values. And if you have duplicated x values, then it is not a function. So this would not be a function because of the duplicated x values. And let's go ahead and get our domain and our range. Now the domain again is the values of x, and we're going to put these in order from smallest to largest, and we're going to use curly brackets. Duplicated values only get written once, so our domain would be the numbers -2 and +3, and our range would be the values 5. We only write it once. Oops, sorry, we'll do the 4 first. My mistake there. Smaller number goes first, so that's going to be a 4. 5 is next. The 5 is duplicated, but we only write that duplicated value one time. So your range would be then 4, 5, and we don't use parentheses, we use curly brackets. Now we're going to start looking at applications. And the first one that we're going to look at is a distance question. So it says, from a point on a straight road, 2 cars are driven in opposite directions, one at 44 miles an hour, the other at 66. In how many hours will they be 330 miles apart? So the first thing we look at is this addition, subtraction, or equals? And we determine that by drawing our vectors. And so it says 2 cars are driven in opposite directions. So that our diagram is going to look like this. And when they're driven in opposite directions, well, let me redraw this again so it looks better. Okay, this works, but I want to redraw it so it looks better and it looks more accurate. Okay, so from a point on a straight road, 2 cars are driven in opposite directions. So let's make it look right. And what we had was right, but let's go ahead and redraw it so it looks correct here. So from a point, this is where we start from. They're going in opposite directions. And if they go in opposite directions like this, it means they add together. Each of these is going to have a rate and a time. We'll use the rate and the time to find then the distance. Now we don't know the time, but we know the rate of speed of each car. One is going at 44. Time is unknown, so we use an X. The other car, heading in the opposite direction, is 66. And we don't know its time either. The total distance is given in the question. And that total distance is 330. And this will be car 1. This will be car 2. And we're going to look at our distance. So rate times time. So that's 44x. The next car is 66x. And that equals 330. Adding those together, 44 and 66. That gives you 110x equals 330. Divide by 110. And that leaves you now with x equaling 3. So let's see if that answers the question. It says, in how many hours will it take for them to be 330 miles apart? Well, it looks like it's going to work because x represents time, and that's what we want. So our answer is then going to be 3 hours. So it should take them 3 hours to be 330 miles apart. Next question. The next question is 7, and it is an investment question. And remember how investment questions work is they're similar in a way to the distance questions, but we're looking at our interest that we make. And interest is the amount times the percentage rate that it pays out. So let's read this real quick. and then solve it. So Paul invested some money at 4% and $2,000 more than that amount at 5%. After a year, his total interest from the two accounts was $1,360. How much did he invest at each rate? So we've got to find both of them. Not just one, we have to find both. So let's begin with what we know. This is an investment question. And so we're going to look here at dollars, and these are amounts and the percentage rate that it pays out. Kind of like the distance, where you had a rate and a time. On these, we have an amount and a percentage rate that it pays out. So we've got some money at 4%. So unknown amount, 4% rate. We're going to combine that with another account that has 2,000 more. So that's X plus 2,000. And it pays 5%. Adding across, that gives you 2X plus 2,000. And now let's go ahead and come up with our equation. So we look at our interest. And interest is, again, the amount times the rate. So we'll call this one our first one. And percentages have to be converted to a decimal. So that's 0.04x for my first one. We're going to add to that 0.05 times x plus 2,000. And then it gives us in the question the total interest, which the total interest in this case is $1,360. Distribute, combine, solve. So distribute the 0.05 through, and that is then 0.04x plus 0.05x, watch your decimals here, and 0.05 times 2,000, well, that's 100, and that equals 1,360. We'll combine those together, and that is 0.09x, and we'll move the 100 over, and that is then 1,260. Divide by your 0.09, and now we are left with x equaling 14,000. Now we need to find both accounts. So the first account is right here at x, and it's 4%. So we have $14,000 at 4%, so that's half of it. How do we get the other one? Well, we just simply plug it in. So the other one was up here at 5%, and it's x plus the 2,000. So that is going to then be $16,000, and it is at 5%. So we got them both, and we labeled them according to their percentages. So that's how we work out that investment question. Question 8 is an average. Now, how do we find the average? Well, the average, in this case, we're working with exams. So the average exam score is going to be the sum of all exams divided by the number of exams taken. So that's going to be our formula for the average. And what we're looking at here is we're looking at exams, and Sarah has an 80 and a 96 on her first two tests. She wants an average of at least 90% on her third test. And we want to know then, what score must she make on this exam? Well, let's label our exams out, and we've got 3 of them. First exam, we got an 80. Second exam, we got a 96. Third exam, we don't know. Now, what we want is we want this average to be greater than or equal to, right, because it says at least 90, because that's what we want, at least 90. So that means we add up our exams. So 80 plus 96 plus x, and we're going to divide that by 3 because we have 3 exams total, and that's going to be greater than 90. So we'll go ahead and add that 80 and that 96 together, and that gives you 176 plus x over 3 is greater than or equal to 90 again. Cross multiply. That clears your fractions there. So we'll go ahead and cross multiply. And when I cross multiply, I then end up with 176 plus x is greater than or equal to, when I multiply 90 times 3, well, that's 270. And we'll move that 176 over. And now we've got x is greater than or equal to 270 minus 176. That's a 94. So what does that mean? That means she must score at least a 94. And if she scores at least a 94, then she will get an average of a 90. So the average is just adding up the scores and dividing by how many you have. In statistics, we call it the mean, but in this class, we call it the average. Question 9, we're going to have to make a table. And question 9 is baseball games that we play. And we're going to look at whether we win or we lose and by how many runs. Now, when we win, that's going to be a positive. And when we lose, that's going to be a negative. And how we're going to approach this question is we're going to make a table. And we're going to look at the number of games that we won or lost. And then we've got the number of runs that we won or lost by. And then over here, this is going to give us our total runs. And we get this by multiplying across. So let's quickly read the question, make our table, and solve it. A baseball team won 3 of its games by 5 runs, lost 3 of its games by 4 runs, lost a game by 7 runs, and finished the season by winning the last 4 games by 3 runs. Express as a real number how many more or fewer runs did the team score versus their opponents in the 11 games. So again, positive win, negative lose. So we begin by looking at 3 games that we won, and we won each of these 3 games 5 runs apiece, so that gives me 15. Next, we lost 3 of its games, so that's going to be a negative. Lost 3 of its games by 4 runs. Multiply across. That's a negative 12. Then we lost 1 game by 7 runs, so that's a negative. Multiply across. Well, that's a negative 7 there. And then we finished the season by winning 4 games by 3 runs. So that comes out to be a positive 12. Now we just want to add these together. So we have 15 minus 12 minus 7 plus 12. Okay, the 12 and the 12, one's positive, one's negative, to go away. And that gives me 15 minus 7, which is then 8 runs. So we beat the team, or the teams, I should say, by 8 runs total. Question 10 we're looking at islands, and we're looking at the area of these islands. So question 10. This works with a total. So we've got 3 islands, and they have 5,018 square miles total. Island A is 3157 more than Island B, and Island B is 194 larger than C. What is the area of each island? So the first thing we look at is our total. And our total in this case, total area, is 5018. So that is A plus B plus C is that 5018 there. Now let's see how they all relate to each other. Island A is 3157 larger than B. So A equals 3157 plus B. And B is 194 larger than C. So that's 194 plus C. C is the unknown, so we use the variable x. Now, we can rewrite this and start at the bottom. We know that C is x, working up. We know B is 194 plus C, so that's 194 plus x. And what do we know about A? Well, working up, A is 3157 plus B, but B is 194 plus x, which that, adding them together, gives you then 3351 plus x. So that's going to be your A there. Now just simply rewrite it, okay, put these back together, and solve it. So A, what do we find A to be? 3351 plus x. We found B to be 194 plus x. And we found C to be x itself. We'll add these together. And that gives me then 3x. And we've got 3351. We're going to add 194 to that. That gives me 35. 45 equals that 5018. Move that 35, 45 over. 45, they're not 8 there. Add those together. And we get 3x now equals a 1473. Divide that by our 3, and we should end up with a whole number, hopefully. And we end up with 491. Now that is not my finished answer. That's only part of it. We need to go back and find A, B, and C, and label them as well. So let's again start at the bottom. We know C is x. So that is 491 square miles. That is C. We've got B, and B is 194 plus x. So that's 491 plus 194, which is then 685 square miles. So that's that piece. And then we've got the last one, which is A, my mistake there. And A is 3351 plus x, which is then 491 plus 3351. And that gives me 3,842 square miles. Okay, and that's what we wanted. That answers the question because that is all 3 islands. And we labeled them. Add them up, and we get that 5,018. Okay, so that's how we worked out question 10. And now we'll move on and work with question 11. Question 11 is vertical angles. Now, vertical angles, they form an X. And we know in vertical angles that the top equals the bottom and the left equals the right. So this is question 11 here. And we'll draw our X, our X looking here, angles. And this is 2x plus 48. And this one is 5x minus 9. Okay. And what do we know? Well, we know that these are going to be what? These are going to be equal to each other. So what does that give us now? That gives us 2x plus 48 equals 5x minus 9. And move that 5x over. You should be comfortable now with doing multiple operations at once. And move that 48 over as well. And we now have a minus 3x equals, we've got 48 and 9, both negative, go together, make it a negative 57. We divide by our 3. And we now end up with negative and negative. Watch your signs here. Make it positive. And that gives you a positive 19. Not my answer, though, is it? Nope, we have to take it. And what do we have to do? Plug it back in. So we'll plug it in each one, and we should get the same answer. So the first one is 2 times 19, that's my x value, plus 48, and that gives me then 86 degrees. So that's one of my answers. Now the other one should be the same. So let's work it out. What is it going to be? It's going to be 5 times 19 minus 9. 5 times 19 is 95. Minus 9, that equals now the same 86 degrees. So those are the answers right here. So make sure that you don't just stop at the x, you have to work it completely out. Question 12 is order of operations. So minus 17 minus, we've got square bracket, minus 20 plus 20 minus 25. Now, in some cases, like in this question specifically, we've got some extra parentheses. And we work from the inside and we slowly work our way out. So we're going to start here. Okay, that plus, we really don't need that plus with the parentheses because we can just put these together. So 20 minus 25, that's a minus 5. And then we still have, you could bring the plus sign down or just get rid of it because plus and minus makes it a minus. A minus 20. Those can go together. Minus 20 and minus 5, well, that's a minus 25. And watch your square bracket. Square brackets are just like parentheses. Double negative here. That is going to make that now a positive. And minus 17 plus 25. Well, that now leaves me with a positive 8. And that's what we want for our answer. So what is our answer here? And it's not x equals, it's just the number 8. 12. Sorry, that was a 12. 13. 13, mixed fractions. Way back from the review chapter. We've got a minus 3 and 2/5. And we want to add to that 6 and 4/7. So I always begin by looking at the whole part. And let's see what we've got. We've got a minus 3 and a positive 6. Well, those can go together and make it 3. What about the fractions? Well, keep the sign the same when we work with these fractions. So this mixed fraction was negative, so we'll keep that negative 2/5 here. And then we've got 4/7. We need a least common denominator of 5 and 7, and that is a 35. So this one needs a 7/7, and this one needs a 5/5, right? And 7 times a -2, well, that is a -14. 7 times 5 is a 35. That's what we want. 4 times 5, that's a 20. 5 times 7, that's a 35. Add those together, and we get 20 minus 14. Watch your signs. That's a positive 6/35, and that's going to be our answer. So what is my complete finished answer? 3 6/35. Question 14 is more order of operations. So that is 19 minus 16 minus 19 plus a -6. Order of operations, what do we do? Parentheses go first. Okay, so we're going to work them out, and we're going to see what we've got left. So 16 minus 19. 16 minus 19, 19 is larger. It is negative, so that is a -3. So 16 minus 19 is -3 when that comes out. 19 is the larger number. And what do we know here? Positive and negative with the 6. That makes it negative. So that's a -6. Clean it up a little more. Double negative here makes that positive. Now we've got 19 plus 3 minus 6. And 19 plus 3, those go together. Makes it 22 minus 6. That gives you then a positive 16. Now it's not x equals because we don't have any variables at all. So it's just the number 16. That was question 14. And we've got a few more to work through. Question 15 is next here. So let's see what we've got on 15. Another operations, order of operations. We've got 9 squared plus 8 times 12 minus 12 plus 5 times 4. Careful with those little multiplication dots there. Order of operations. Well, we can approach this in a couple of different ways. You can do it in individualized steps, or you can do multiple steps at once. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to come here, and I'm going to do by parentheses. And inside the parentheses, I got multiplication, which goes first. Then we've got addition. So 5 times 4 is our multiplication, so that's 20. Add your 12. So this comes out to be a 32. And the negative here just comes down with it. We'll deal with that in a moment. Next, we've got exponents. 9 squared is 81. And then we've got, in the middle here, 8 times 12 and 8 times 12. That is a 96. This 32 is positive, right? Positive and negative keeps it negative. So let's see what we've got. We've got 81 plus 96 minus 32. 81 and 96 can go together. Subtract off your 32, and we end up with a positive 145. And again, you could break this down and you could do each step individually. You could have done the parentheses and then rewrote it, then did your exponents, rewrote it again, then combined it all together, rewrote it again. At this point, you should be able to do multiple steps at once. So you shouldn't have any trouble doing all of this at once. Question 16. We're going to graph this, and we're also going to find our x and y intercepts. Now, what are the intercepts? Well, the intercepts are where they cross either axis. And sometimes you have both, and sometimes you may only have one. This is your x-axis, and this is your y-axis. Now, if you have two variables, it's diagonal. It's a diagonal line. If you have a y line, it's going to be horizontal, and if you have an x line, it's vertical. So let's graph. We have one variable, y, so let's graph y equals -5. So that's going to be down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 units down. And it is a -5, and it's a y line. So that is going to be horizontal, just like that. Now we need to see where it crosses the axis. It never crosses the x-axis, so we have none, right? This never crosses up here at all. It crosses the y-axis, and write them as an ordered pair. It crosses the y-axis at 0, -5. So that is your y-intercept. So we have no x-intercept, and we have a y-intercept as an ordered pair of 0, -5. Make sure you write the y first, x is behind it. 17. 17 is very similar, and it's x plus 1 equals 0. We want to follow the same directions. So we want to find the intercepts, and we want to graph it. We only have one variable. In this case, we have the variable x. We need to get x by itself. So move that 1 over, and now we've got x equals -1. We know that is going to be a vertical line, and this is your x-axis. So here's my -1, vertical line here at -1. Never crosses the y-axis, so we have no y-intercept. But what is my x-intercept? Well, my x-intercept is right here as an ordered pair. Watch the order. That's going to be -1, 0. And we have no y-intercept. So we have none. Okay. Vertical line. Why is it a vertical line? Because you only have the x component. Make sure you solve it for x first. So make sure that you move that -1 over. You have to do that because it's not x equals 1, it's x equals a -1 once you've slid it over. The next question requires quite a bit of algebra. And we're going to find the equation of a line, and we want this in standard form. And you're going to be given 2 points. You're going to be given -4, -3, and -11, +5. So we want to find our equation in standard form. And what we're going to do is we're going to use our flow chart. And remember that second page of that flow chart. We want to find the equation when you're given 2 points. And we begin by finding our slope. So y1 minus y2 over x1 minus x2, x1, y1, x2, y2. Fill it in. Watch for double negatives. We have a -3 plus 5 over -4 minus, watch your signs here, a -11. And double negative makes it positive. So -3 plus 5, well, that is a 2. And -4 plus 11, that should make that now a 5. Wait, what did I say? 5. Minus 4 plus 11. Let's make sure we do this correctly. Sorry about that. Minus 4 plus 11. That should be a positive 7. Sorry about that. I just about wrote down the wrong part, but that should be a 7 down below there. Now, once we have our slope, then we use point slope. And that is y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. And we've got our slope, which is 2/7. And we are going to use that first point, which is minus 4 minus 3 there. So simple enough. Plug in your values. x1, y1. And that leaves me then with y. Now watch out for double negatives. Minus a minus 3 equals 2/7 times x minus a minus 4. Double negatives make it positive. Double negatives make it positive. Distribute your 2/7 through. So now we've got y plus 3 equals 2/7x. And 2 times 4, that makes it an 8/7. We want this in standard form, no fractions, so let's get rid of them. Multiply it all by 7. And that leaves me then with 7y. 7 times 3 is a 21. That equals a 2x plus 8. Should be able to do multiple steps at once. We want it in standard form. So we've got to move all the x and the y's to the left. Numbers by themselves go to the right. Okay, let's make sure we did this correctly here. Oh, wait. I think we made a mistake. Let's double check and make sure. It's so easy to do here. Let's double check and make sure everything looks right. I think it does, but we'll double check and make sure. Okay, let's go back up to the very beginning here. Okay, make sure I copied the numbers down right. I may have made a mistake when I copied them down. Yep, I made a sign error, right? And where's my sign error at? Right here. It should be a minus 3 and a minus 5. Sorry about that. That should make that a negative 8, and I'll fix it from here. Okay, so let me fix it from here. If you ever do this, just rewrite it all and start over again. Okay, so it's not going to change a whole lot, but it will change some. Right, so that makes that negative. Negative and positive makes it negative. And 8 and 8 is a 64. So we'll fix that there. Wait a minute, not 8, 8, 8 times 4 there. Let me make sure I'm on the right track here. 8 times 4, that makes it that negative 32. Sorry about that. That should be a negative 32. That was my mistake there. Okay, so that should be a negative 32. Now we'll clear out our fractions. And that's going to make that a negative 8x there. Right, and a negative 32. Hopefully we did it correctly from here. I just got in a little bit of a hurry, which everything looks like it's going to work out correctly from here. We'll move that 8x over because we want it in standard form. And move that 21 over as well. Okay, sorry about that confusion there, but hopefully you see the mistake and we see where it's at. And that leaves you then with 8x plus 7y and 32 and 21. Those are both negatives. They go together. And that makes it a minus 53. That is in standard form. Why? Because x and y are on the left-hand side. No fractions, no decimals. We only have a few more to look at. Question 19. 19 is actually easier. 19, we want our answer in slope-intercept. Okay, so we're going to write our answer slope-intercept. And we have this point, 3, 2. And we've got a slope of negative 2. So first page, because we have a point and we have a slope, so we're going to use point slope. And that is y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. Fill in your pieces, x1, y1. So that is y minus 2 equals minus 2 times x minus 3. Distribute and be very careful with that negative 2. Negative goes with it. Watch your signs, distributing through. That is y minus 2 equals a minus 2x. Double negative makes it a positive 6 there. We want it slope-intercept, so we're almost done. Add your 2, and now we have y equals a negative 2x plus 8, it looks like. And that is question number 19. Next question. The next question is simply using or rewriting with or without scientific notation. In this case, we're going to write it in standard notation. So question 20, we've got this. We want to write this in standard notation. We've got 5.994 times 10 to the negative 5th power. Now, we want to rewrite this in standard notation. So first, we find our decimal point here. And this is a negative, so we're going to be moving it to the left. And so we're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 places. And then I always like to start off with a 0 at the beginning. So rewriting this, I've got 0.0000, 1, 2, 3, 4 zeros, a 5994. And that is your answer in standard notation. So all we had to do was just rewrite it in standard notation. Question 21. Question 21 is classifying polynomials. So I'm going to give you some polynomials, or a polynomial. And this is a 21 and 22. We're classifying them. So let's remember how we classify them. When we classify them, think about the number of terms. Monomial, that means 1. Easy way to think of that is a monocle. You know, monocle is an eyeglass, but it only has one lens. Okay, monocle means 1. Mono means 1. Binomial means 2 terms. Think of a bicycle. 2 wheels on a bicycle. And trinomial is 3. So think of a tricycle. What's an example of each one? Monomial, 3x. Binomial, 5x plus 7. Trinomial, 8x squared plus 6x plus 2. Terms are separated by addition or subtraction. Degree. Degree is the highest power. And so I'm now going to give you 2 different polynomials. Poly means many. So when we talk about polynomial, it's many terms, and we can classify it as monomial, binomial, trinomial, or none. And we'll also find the degree. So question 21, we've got 16 x to the 4th plus 8w cubed plus 7w minus 5 y to the 5th and a plus 1. How many terms do we have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 terms. We don't have a specific name for 5 terms, so this would be none. Right? It's not a binomial, monomial, nor trinomial, so it's none. And what's my highest power? 5, so my degree would be 5. Question 22 is very, very similar. Question 22 is 15y cubed minus 5y squared plus 9. This has 3 terms, so this is a trinomial. And it's a trinomial, and it has a degree of, highest power, degree of 3. So that one is actually multiple choice, but it's a trinomial, degree 3 there. Which would be answer A if you look at your practice exam. 23, we're almost finished. 23, what are we doing? We are rewriting this in scientific notation. And it says the Earth is approximately 92,900,000 miles from the sun. Rewrite this in scientific notation. So all we need to do is rewrite the number, and then we'll move it over. Now, where do we start? We start back here. What do we want? We want 1 digit and then the decimal point. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So rewriting it, that would then be 9.29, and we moved it 7 places over. So it's going to be 9.29 times 10 to the 7th power. Easy enough here. And just so remember, 21, that would have been answer, you got different choices there, answer D. And 22 was answer A, but none. And degree 5 for 21. Trinomial degree 3 for 22. 2 more questions. 24. 24, we've got 6,900,000. And we want to rewrite this in scientific notation. So here's my decimal. We go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And that gives you then 6.9 times 10 to the 6th power. And by the way, question 23, we would go ahead and label this in terms of miles. All right, so we'll put miles there. And the very last question talks about solutions. And what makes something a solution? Well, it's a solution if you plug in your values and the sides match up. So we've got 3, 2, and we have our equation 4x minus 4y equals 20. And we want to see if it's a solution. This is your x, this is your y. So that's 4 times 3 minus 4 times 2. And 4 times 3 is 12. 4 times 2 is 8. Watch your signs there. Well, that doesn't work, does it? Because 12 minus 8. 12 minus 8 makes it a 4. And 4 clearly does not equal 20. So this would not be a solution then. So it's not a solution. And why is it not a solution? Because the sides are different. So next week you'll be taking your final exam. And remember, you can have a page of notes. You can use that flow chart if you need to. And also, I'll probably put on a couple of extra questions, and you'll be able to skip a few of them. And you'll have 25 questions on your final exam. And that, by the way, is going to be, it looks like on December 14th.